Before we go on with today's exciting video about Warlocks, I did want to mention that YouTube recently had a glitch and we lost about 100 of you guys. And at first I thought maybe it's just my videos and content is dying and I'm just not funny, which that would be true. But then our boy Bajira, a outstanding guy, great dude, happy-go-lucky, and even he took a subscriber hit. If you're somebody who has a channel and you're gonna notice your subscribers kind of just disappearing, it's just YouTube being YouTube, just letting everybody who makes YouTube videos know. And I'm gonna have to ask about 100 of you guys, but no more than 100, to subscribe to the channel just so we can recoup our losses. That'll be very much appreciated. Without further ado, enjoy a Warlock video. Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dallar, and I've been enjoying the Alliance side of the questing with Warlock, and honestly, I haven't stopped playing in quite a while. I recently just got leveled on my Rogue, and I think the Warlock is going to be the class that I might just level to all the way to 120 on Alliance, because I just cannot stop playing it. Warlocks are looking actually pretty awesome in BFA, and I had a lot of expectations riding on Demonology. I had pretty high expectations riding on Destruction, and I came in with pretty low expectations for Affliction. And for all three specs, I was genuinely surprised and genuinely happy to see the changes. Now, there's a lot of changes to come to Warlocks, and this is my very first impression. If I do want to make a detailed video on Warlocks in the future again, then I would want to wait until more detailed stuff, or at least close to release date, that will have all of the specializations of the classes for BFA. Right now, all I can tell you is my first impressions of all three great specs, and first of all, I'll say that I definitely enjoyed them, and after playing them for a bit, I definitely want to make a Warlock afterwards. I'm not sure if they quite fit my top 5, unless there's a class that I find more fun than a Warlock. These guys are definitely going to be at least 4th or 5th class that I will level in BFA. Let's first talk about Warlock Pets. Like with a Hunter, I want to discuss pets very quickly. What they did, and this applies for every spec except for Demonology, all the pets besides the tank pet, I think, the succubus, the imp, and the fellhound, all of them do more or less same damage now. They've been standardized, so damage in a raid or a dungeon or in PvP is more or less the same. You did lose a lot of the, I guess, passives that came with the specialization, like where fell hunters would bite at your target, and based on how many dots they had, the bite would do more damage. Or with Destruction Warlock, where you could have your imp that deals a little bit more damage due to artifact weapon, or of course Demonology, you have your Fell Lord. Fell Lords and Demonology is always going to be a thing. You don't really have that much customization of what pet you want. But if you're Destruction or Affliction, and you want to bring a succubus or a Fellhound or an imp, whether for utility or just for aesthetic uses, you can. Now you are allowed to pick whatever pet you want, and I think it's awesome because it allows you more customization, more preference, more choice, but also a little bit more utility without having to lose damage. So I think this is great for both PvE and PvP aspects of the game. Affliction as a Warlock was a specialization that honestly surprised me. The BFA playstyle ended up being a hell of a lot more fun than its concurrent Legion playstyle. In Legion right now, you just maintain an Agony, you maintain Corruption, you put up a couple UAs, and then you drain your target to the end, and you activate your artifact weapon from time to time. The only complexity I find with the current Legion Warlock, and I guess there's a little bit of a skill ceiling to it, there is some aspects that you can learn and get better at to do more damage, but for the most part, all you end up doing is just maintaining your artifact weapon effect, and just all about timing for the most part. The BFA Warlock is a little bit different. You actually get a few more customization options for what type of Warlock you want to be. Affliction is all about damage over time, and that stays true in BFA. It's just the way you deal damage and the talents that you can combine together with various effects in order to stack up your damage over time, I find a lot more exciting in BFA. You have Shadow Bolt as your filler spell instead of Drain Soul. So that is going to suck for players that want to have a lot more mobility, because of the Drain Soul you can at least, move and then start draining, move, start draining. Here you have to finish a full cast of Shadow Bolt for it to really be let go. So that is your big filler, while still maintaining Agony, at least maintaining Corruption, and at least maintaining Unstable Affliction. But the talents themselves is what really separates one Affliction Warlock from the other, and there's so many customization options for each build. You can add for your Shadow Ball to also add a debuff to the enemy that stacks up to 3 times and makes him take more damage. So when it comes to dotting up and playing with a boss, you can play with every single dot in the game. I played with Corruption, Siphon Life, Agony, UA, as well as this debuff, and all I'm doing the whole fight is micromanaging these debuffs. I also grabbed the talent where once the enemy is past 35% of the health, the lower their health is, the more damage my dots do. So that damage once the enemy is past the execute point, as long as I can maintain those things throughout the whole fight, they really ramp up and the damage really skyrockets. If you want to, you can have more of a bursty setup, where you put up your dots, and while your dots are still fresh, you can consume the damage they would have done with a single Chaos Bolt-like mechanic. If you want to, you can speed up your dots and have more of a faster paced playstyle. Overall, I have to say that Affliction feels really good to play. It feels great to quest, it feels great to do dungeons with, and there's so many different builds. It really feels great because once you put up your dots, that's it. The enemy is gonna melt. You just gotta make sure that those dots stay there, and those dots are in their peak condition, and that's it. This makes questing a lot better, because once you load up the enemy and got yourself a perfect situation, that's it. They're gonna melt. Overall, the spec feels a little bit faster. Yes, you're talking about a specialization that's all about dot mechanics, and yes, if you want to play this very heavy dot, very agonizing build, so the ADB feels every single affliction you put on them, yes, you can play that way. Or if you want to play a little bit faster as an Affliction Warlock, you can choose to do so as well. I think it just offers you so many options and so many playstyles, and I honestly enjoy that about BFA, how a lot of specializations start to feel this way the more I keep playing the expansion. Destruction felt very, very interesting. I wasn't quite sure exactly what to expect, and I wasn't quite sure which towns were going to be great. I wasn't really sure what the playstyle was going to be like, but it feels pretty familiar. I feel like Legion did a pretty good job shaping what the current BFA destruction is like. Without the artifact weapon, you're still a destruction warlock, you're not really losing too much. But I do like what they did with some of the talents as well in order to make the spec a little bit more playable. All that is good about destruction is still there, and I never really found the spec to be a bad specialization. It all depends, I guess, on how much damage does it do in raids, how much damage does it do in dungeons, and between 3 specializations, usually people just gravitate to one spec that does the most amount of damage, or can get the damage out easier. Regardless, destruction warlocks are still playable in Legion, even at higher end of the endgame content, and in BFA, they feel really good to play. There are a few interesting talents that I really want to try out. Like, for example, Chaos Bolt being able to eat a part of your immolate, and that immolate damage that it can eat up is actually pretty bursty. So destruction being this very explosive specialization, having slow damage over time wasn't really part of your playstyle. But having long cast abilities that take I guess a while to cast, but deal so much damage, such destructive damage, it's so much fun to line up together and seeing how these talents and abilities kind of function together. It gives you more playstyles, more ways that abilities interact. That's one of the things that I really like, is the ways that abilities interact, especially for the Warlock class. Destruction in particular feels very powerful. I love the Soulfire ability. It feels like a bigger version of a Chaos Bolt with just one soul shard. I love the playstyle with Infernal, where you can summon an Infernal, and while he is up, as long as you can cycle in Chaos Bolt, every single Chaos Bolt buffs all your other Chaos Bolts while the Infernal is up, which gives you so many opportunities for this very rampy, very high-paced playstyle. They also brought back Shadowburn, which was an execute mechanic back, and I really wish it would come back as a real execute mechanic. Right now, all it does is deal some Shadowburn damage, and if the debuff, it places a debuff on an enemy. If the enemy dies, it resets the cooldown of the ability. It no longer replaces Conflag though, so you can have your Conflag rate, which gives you 5 soul shards every time you use it, and then Shadowburn, 2 charges, 3 soul shards every time you use it. So in a way, you can really combine some kind of a build where it's all about generating a ton of soul shards back to back to back, and you can have some really explosive, very high RNG, very high amount of damage playstyle, and very unpredictable. I think that's what they really want to go with Destruction. Your mastery is still that same mastery, where you deal more damage based on your mastery, and then up to a possible certain amount of RNG extra, plus with the defensive aspect of it too, where you take less damage and plus extra damage that you can sometimes take. The specialization feels very weird, but the explosive and random and unpredictable playstyle, the little bits of unpredictability lodged in a specialization, feel pretty good to play. These aspects don't really overstay their welcome. They really do feed into what makes Destruction good. The powerful damage, the explosive playstyle, and overall, it feels great. Plus, the animation changes for Destruction really feel very fresh. The playstyle for the specialization feels very strong. You feel like such a tank. You feel like you do so much damage, and I was even drawing aggro away from my mob, which felt really fun to play. I haven't really got to play Destruction in a dungeon setting, but I've seen some of the numbers it can put out, and it's kind of crazy. And then Demonology. This is the specialization that I had the biggest hype for, and it was worth it. The playstyle of being a puppet master, summoning waves and armies of minions and demons and imps and oh my, everything. It really feels good to play. You can summon so many demons. You can have a sea of imps all around you, just firing fireballs at the enemy. You can have demon doggers. You can have bigger demon doggers. You can summon even more demons. You can open up a whole portal, and every soul shard you spend, even more demons pour out of it. And then of course you have your big one, which is to summon your overlord. Now I love the whole idea of, instead of having talents where, oh, increases this ability, hey, gives you the spell, most of your spells are all about summoning demons, and that's great. Your big burst cooldown is summoning a big ass demon that buffs your other demons that are in existence currently, and that's awesome. I think this gives so much more playstyle for, I guess, the timing of it. As a Demonology Warlock, you would want to time the maximum amount of pets and then summon your big demon guy to empower all your pets, extend their duration, and really just go ham. The AoE playstyle for the spec does feel a little bit weird. You basically just have to build soul shards, drop down imps, then have those imps sacrifice themselves to explode at the enemy, then do it again and again and again. So that feels a little bit wonky and weird, but it still puts out great damage. And I like the interactions that you have with your main pet, the Fel Lord. Compared to the other specializations, you are stuck with the Fel Lord, but you have talents that actually interact with your pet, kind of like Kill Command style. It orders your pet to attack an enemy with specific abilities designed for your pet, or just buffs your pet and causes them to just go ham and enrage in the middle of enemies, just destroying them with a Fellstorm barrage. It is actually super fun, and I really enjoy it. I think the specialization is just perfect. I love everything about it. I love the capabilities. I love the just even the thought of just what a skill cap, what a very skilled Demon Warlock can do with this in a dungeon or a raid or in a BG, just how much damage they can honestly put out. Also, what I like about the specialization is how it has a little bit of that change in rotation, because all you do besides summoning demons is just cast and Shadow Bolt. As a player, besides getting demons and I guess birthing them into to fight for you, all you do is cast Shadow Bolt. So that playstyle would feel very boring, because all you're doing is just Shadow Bolt, Shadow Bolt, Shadow Bolt, Shadow Bolt. And I also like how they have Soulfire to kind of work off of your pets, where you just deal basically what looks like a Pyroblast that's insta cast and builds you a ton of soul shards. So that gives you a little bit of variety and playstyle, playability, and a lot more soul shards to play with, and really just the ramp up mechanic about it. You would think that a specialization of Warlock, on top of it, that's all about summoning the army of demons. You would think that that specialization would have a very slow ramp up mechanic. I would say that with the changes with GCD for overall all the classes, this specialization doesn't feel quite as rampy, because I guess in a way you could think of every single class that has a ramp up mechanic due to the GCD changes. Warlocks, all you have to do is cast, and you only might as well be treated as a GCD on its own, just the time you have to wait between casts. So compared to other classes, it doesn't feel quite as rampy as you might imagine. So overall, it feels really good to play. I'm surprised just how well they made it work, and I cannot wait to really start playing it once BFA is actually here. Overall, I'd have to say that Warlocks feel insanely good to play. I had a lot to say about them, but they really do deserve it. They feel great. All three specializations surprise me in one way or another. Even the spec of Affliction that I came in with zero expectation, I ended up feeling like I could honestly start maining it. I felt like everybody on the mother playing Affliction, and as somebody who likes to go against the grain, I didn't think Affliction would end up being the spec of choice for everybody once BFA comes out. And I have no idea what spec will be popular, but all three of them feel good to play. All of them feel exciting. All of them feel like they have a little bit of that skill cap to it that I am yet to learn and really figure out. But overall in BFA right now, relatively, they're really fun to play and they do really good damage. I hopefully will remember to blur out the damage meters, because I feel like a lot of people are looking at the damage meters and are trying to compare classes against themselves this early in the beta. I have the damage meters there just so I can see my damage and relatively how well I'm doing compared to some of the other players and other classes. Maybe they're the same class as me, so I can see if maybe I can do a little bit more, if I can do a little bit better, you know, maybe I can actually learn the rotation properly, and I can see what they're doing from the numbers themselves. but I don't really want to display the numbers to give you guys an idea of, oh, look at this class, it's not doing enough damage. Well, I probably won't be playing that in BFA because the damage is going to be all adjusted by the end of it. I don't think they've even done like the actual balancing quite yet. It's so early in the beta, it's just not even worth looking at the damage numbers right now. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts about Warlocks. I'm super excited to get back to my Warlock once BFA comes out. I honestly don't think I can even go back to the current Legion Warlock because Warlocks in BFA just seem to me like so much fun. Anyway, guys, this has been my first look at Warlocks in BFA. Let me know in the comments below. Subscribes and follows are very much appreciated. Also, hitting the notification bell is great. Thank you guys again. I'll see all of you in another video.